What does the biggest flower in the world smell like? And why is the most brutal prison located in Indonesia? Get ready to learn many more interesting things about the country that survived two of the largest cataclysms in written history. Stay till the end to see a super rare and expensive breed of black chickens. Before we begin, just give me a quick shout out in the comments about the next country that you want facts about. You decide entirely, so don't be shy. Let's start. The Republic of Indonesia is a huge country, located in Southeast Asia between two large oceans, the Indian and the Pacific. The equator passes through its middle, which largely determines its climate and nature. The territory of Indonesia consists of the largest archipelago in the world, over 17,000 islands, which make up a total area of 1,905,000 square kilometers, or 741,000 square miles. The coastline is logically the third longest in the world, after those of Canada and Norway, and it is as much as 33,000 miles. Did you know that Indonesia is the fourth most populous country in the world after India, China, and the USA? Its population currently numbers 277 million people, and it is expected that by 2050 they will reach 330 million. Over 58% of them live on the most densely populated island in the whole world, Java, while the others are scattered around the country. With so many people, Indonesia is considered to be the largest Islamic country in the entire world. Their population is 7 times that of Saudi Arabia. In Indonesia, about 87% are Muslim, that is 240 million. This country is the largest island country in the world, if of course we do not count Australia, which is a continent. From one end to the other, Indonesia is over 3,000 miles by car. It takes more than a week to travel because of the many islands. Since they are located on the equator, it is quite warm and humid there. They have only 2 seasons, dry and rainy. However, another thing that can influence the temperatures and climate there are volcanoes. Some of them are constantly erupting and changing the weather forecasts. On the island of Sumatra, a strange stormy phenomenon is observed. Super intense morning storms with lots of rain and thunder going on for about an hour or so. Then comes the bright sunshine. Indonesia's history is very rich, but unfortunately much of it has been destroyed by the colonizers. In the Middle Ages, Europeans traveled there to trade for spices that didn't grow on the old continent. The Portuguese were the first to settle there, followed by England and France. However, the Dutch wanted to get their hands on the trade of the entire region, and so the Spice War began. The Dutch surprisingly mastered the situation and imposed control over 13,000 islands. This is how they start to accumulate immense riches. Indonesia becomes their most important colony, but the bad thing is that they slaughtered a large part of the local population. At this stage, you must be wondering, how after being a European colony, Indonesia reached up to be the largest Islamic state? In reality, Islam arrived there with the Arab traders as much as 2 centuries before the colonizers and spread again after they left. World War II ushered in totalitarian rule in Indonesia and pro-Islamic politics. As a matter of fact, the country's regime is responsible for the mass spread of Islam, as well as for the death of over 1 million people in Nazi-like facilities. The capital of Indonesia is Jakarta, and is known as the most congested city on the planet. The streets there are regularly gridlocked during rush hour. The population of the metropolitan area, outlined in dotted lines on your screens, alone is 10 million people. As you can see, however, the city, it does not end with its border with all its surroundings. Jakarta has over 33 million people, making it one of the largest urban areas on the planet. The official currency there is Indonesian rupiah, and you have to agree with me that the portraits on their banknotes are not very well made. Their smallest denomination is 1,000 rupees, which is just 7 cents. Indonesian is the spoken language in this country, but they have over 700 dialects. So 2 people from different parts of the country might not understand each other well. The funniest thing is that their official Indonesian language is artificially made and is a dialect of the Malay language. Here is how it sounds.
Saya Andes, saya dan teman-teman sekarang sedang berada di kota tua Jakarta.
Did you know that in Indonesia and in some parts of Malaysia, you can meet a wild orangutan, which in the language of the locals translates as man of the forest? The country is the primary home of these highly intelligent monkeys. On the left of your screens is the flag of Monaco, and on the right is the flag of Indonesia. And at first glance, they have absolutely no difference. But if you look closely, the Indonesian one is a bit wider and with a deeper red. Speaking of wildlife earlier, did you know that in Indonesia, you can meet the largest lizard on the planet, the Komodo dragon? In length, it can reach as much as 3 meters and a weight of 135 kilograms. Besides, of course, their super ferocious prehistoric appearance, these animals also have a venomous bite and have even been known to attack humans. There are 127 active volcanoes in Indonesia, which cause serious problems every few months. Already upon arrival in some areas, tourists receive special training on what to do and how to evacuate in the event of a volcanic eruption. Statistics show that every single day, there are at least 3 minor earthquakes in some part of the country. In fact, 2 of the most destructive volcanic eruptions in human history took place in Indonesia. Mount Tabora in 1815, so much soot was thrown out that they could cover the entire territory of Greece with a layer of 1 meter. It caused a permanent cooling of the Earth's atmosphere, lasting over 10 years. The second catastrophic eruption is that of Krakatoa, which emitted the loudest sound in history. Within a radius of 65 kilometers from it, everyone's eardrums popped. The shock of the eruption was so powerful that it caused a tsunami that killed between 10,000 and 40,000 people. Although Indonesia occupies only 1% of the world's territory, it is second only to Brazil in terms of biodiversity. 17% of all bird species, 12% of all mammal species, 16% of all reptile species, and a bunch of plants can only be found there. Did you know that the largest Buddhist temple in the entire world is located in Indonesia? Its name is Borobudur. It covers an area of 7,500 square feet and is almost 100 feet high. It is made of 2 million separate stone structures. Its construction itself is estimated to have taken over 75 years. And today, it is one of the most visited tourist attractions in the country. Indonesia is the largest exporter of frog legs in the world. You probably guessed who the biggest consumer is. France, of course. The Frenchmen, by the way, were recently restricted in their hunting of amphibians by their government because they almost exterminated all the frogs in France. Indonesia is home to the super beautiful Kelimutu lakes, which are located in the mouth of a volcano. They are known for being able to change color. Sometimes both are heavily turquoise. Other times one turns brown. The color depends on the volcano beneath them. One of the most famous islands of Indonesia is, of course, Bali, which is annually visited by more than 5 million tourists. It is known as the Island of the Gods because they have over 1,000 Hindu temples. Did you know that there is a day in Bali during which the locals don't utter a single word? Their day passes in total silence and marks the beginning of the Balinese New Year. Another famous island is Komodo, which in recent years has become a very popular tourist destination because of its pink beaches and scenery. And of course, those friends I showed you a while ago. In Indonesia, you can see one of the largest flowers in the world. It's called Rafflesia and is known for its pungent smell of a decaying corpse. This flower is a parasite and blooms once a year. It reaches up to 1 meter in size and weighs about 10 kilos. Another flower to avoid is the Titanic Amorphophallus. It reaches up to 2.5 meters in height and up to 1.5 meters in width. It is considered the smelliest flower in the world, and its aroma can be detected from a kilometer away. It smells like rotten meat, so don't get too excited. Did you know that the country is a major exporter of the rarest and most expensive coffee in the world, Kopi Luwak? Its coffee beans have passed through the digestive system of Asian cat-like lemurs. Yes, they eat those coffee beans, then they defecate them, and this process gives the special aroma. The Indonesian government obliges all its citizens to indicate their religion in their identity cards, and when filling out the documents, they have a choice between 6 religions. In a word, they don't give you the right to be an atheist. According to them, you have to believe in some god. The problems with these ID cards come when a man and a woman want to marry, but have indicated 2 different religions. Then they must request special permission from the Ministry of Religious Affairs. Yes, there is such an institution in Indonesia, and it is quite strong. It's easier to change your religion on an ID card to get married than to get a permit from the ministry. Did you know that the rainforests of Indonesia are considered to be some of the oldest in the world, and some trees there reach up to 90 meters in height? They are record holders for the number of carnivorous plants, such as the pitcher plant. In Indonesia, there are descendants of many strange tribes who keep their ancient traditions. Some of them are known as thugs because they believed that cutting off the head of the enemy would give them his powers. Tikis mythical tribe is called the Batak and is considered by many to be the most ferocious in the world. Today, the beheading ritual is still observed, but they calmly cut coconuts from palms instead of human heads. One Bali tribe has a tradition with newly born babies. For a period of 6 months after the birth of a child, they do not allow its feet to touch the floor because it is believed that this way the devil can take up residence in it. Another island tribe sharpens its teeth, and the reason will surprise you. According to them, the 6 vices of man enter the soul through the 6 upper teeth. Some tribes still live in houses built 40 meters above the ground. In general, it is really very difficult to imagine that the inhabitants of a super-modern and huge metropolis like Jakarta live only 100 miles from an island inhabited by tribes that have not seen civilization. It is believed that to this day, about 44 tribes still live in isolation on the island of Sumatra. An interesting fact that I forgot to tell you is that because of traffic jams in Jakarta, cars with 3 people inside were not allowed into the city center for many years. Thanks to this law, poor people began to offer services as hired passengers for $10 a day. They only rode in the cars so that their owners could get to the city center. Indonesia is building an entirely new capital city, and the reason is not that Jakarta is congested. It is sinking. Every year, the city goes down 3 to 4 inches due to the usage of groundwater. Literally, the city is in danger of being flooded by the ocean, and by 2050, perhaps 40% of it will already be underwater. The new capital will be on the island of Borneo and will be called Nusantara. Thousands of acres of virgin jungle have already been cleared for construction, and the government's initial investment is about $30 billion. In general, Indonesia is a booming economy and is doing well, rarely having to borrow money. However, there is one very serious problem, and that is disasters like floods, earthquakes, volcanoes. They regularly bring Indonesia to its knees and have to increase its external debt, which this year reached $400 billion. Some time ago on the island of Guam, they accidentally released a kind of brown snake, which, by the way, can jump with its whole body. This snake liked the island so much that they multiplied enormously and destroyed 9 out of 10 species of birds. It often bites through cables and causes short circuits. Indonesian cuisine, like most of that region, has some strange elements. For example, they like to eat bat soup. Otherwise, they consume a lot of rice, noodles, and meat. Indonesia has a very rare breed of chickens that are completely black. They are called ayam cemani, and even their beak and tongue are black. One such hen costs about $6,000 because of their exotic meat, which, as you can imagine, is also black. Their eggs are sold for about $20 each, and surprisingly, they are white. In Indonesia, there is still the death penalty that is carried out by firing squad. This happens most often in the Nusa Penitentiary, which is considered the most brutal prison in the world. Hardcore criminals are moved there 72 hours before the execution. Indonesia offers a very clever visa for modern times. Any foreigner can apply as a digital nomad and work in Indonesia remotely, as a freelancer, for example. He or she can even reside if he receives his funds somewhere else, as long as they spend money in the country. If you liked the video, you will like this one here too. Before you go and watch it, leave a like and subscribe to our channel.